mom didn't cheat with my husband. She did something worse. She climbed inside my head and slowly turned me against him, one helpful edit at a time. My name is Claire. I'm 32. My husband is Ethan, 34. We've been together 8 years, married for 5. We don't have kids yet, just a mortgage, 2 exhausted careers, and a shared addiction to bad TV and takeout. Ethan is not perfect. He forgets things. He shuts down in arguments. He can be stubborn in that quiet, infuriating way. But I loved him. I still do. The problem is, I also loved my mom's approval, and those 2 things turned out to be mutually exclusive. I grew up with a very involved mother, the kind of woman who checks your bank account just in case, knows your phone passcode in case of emergency, gives you feedback on your outfits, your friends, your hair, your life. When I moved in with Ethan, she cried like I was emigrating to Mars. "Just promise me," she said, holding my face in her hands. "You'll never keep secrets from me. You and I, we're a team. Men come and go, moms stay." That sentence lodged somewhere deep in me. So when Ethan and I hit a rough patch last year, I did what I'd always done. I called my mom. Our rough patch wasn't dramatic. No infidelity, no big betrayal, just distance. We were both working long hours. We sniped at each other over stupid things. Dishes, laundry, whose turn it was to call the plumber. Every conversation about money turned into a low-level argument. One night, after we'd fought about absolutely nothing for the 3rd time that week, Ethan sat down on the couch and said, "I don't want us to turn into those couples who only talk through sarcasm and eye rolls. Would you be open to couples therapy?" I actually felt relieved. "Yes," I said immediately. "I don't want to lose us over petty crap." We found a therapist, Dr. Lewis, who did both joint and individual sessions. From the first session, she was clear. The goal isn't to decide who's right. The goal is to learn how to fight without destroying each other. Sounded good to me. It did not sound good to my mother. When I told her, she froze. "Couples therapy?" she repeated. "Already?" "We're not on the edge of divorce, Mom," I said. "We just want help communicating before it gets that bad." She pursed her lips. "You know therapy always takes the man's side, right?" she said. "They'll tell you to lower your standards, to accept less." I laughed it off. "Mom, that's not how it works." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Just don't let them gaslight you. If you feel something is wrong, it is wrong. You call me after every session, okay? I'll help you process it." And I did. That was my first mistake. After each session, I'd sit in my car and call her on speaker. She said I interrupt him a lot. She wants us to write down 3 things we appreciate about each other. She asked me to describe what I need from him instead of what I hate about him. My mom listened, then translated everything into her own language. If Dr. Lewis said, "Ethan shuts down because he feels criticized. Can you express needs without attacking?" Mom said, "So he can't handle the truth and you're supposed to baby him?" If Dr. Lewis said, "Claire, sometimes you escalate by bringing up old fights." Mom said, "She's blaming you for standing up for yourself." Classic. To be helpful, my mom suggested I take notes during sessions. She even bought me a pretty notebook. "Write everything down," she said. "Then I can help you see what's really going on." I thought it was support. It was something else. Dr. Lewis gave us homework. Write messages to each other instead of blowing up in person. Make a list of boundaries. Journal our feelings before bringing them to the other person. I started drafting long messages to Ethan, and reading them to my mom first. That was twist number 1. Because my texts to my husband slowly stopped sounding like me. Here's what I would write originally in my notebook. When you scroll on your phone while I'm talking about my day, I feel ignored. I know you're tired, but I need you to look at me sometimes. My mom would listen and say, "Okay, that's sweet, but too soft. He won't take it seriously." She'd suggest edits. "Right, you always choose your phone over me. I'm done feeling like your background noise. This is the last warning. That shows you have a backbone." I'd protest. "That sounds harsh." "Men only understand harsh," she'd say. "Trust me, you're just saying what you really feel. Don't let a therapist turn you into a doormat." Little by little, I started sending the edited versions. Ethan began to flinch when his phone buzzed with my name. Dr. Lewis also wanted us to make a list of boundaries and needs. Homework. Each of us would write our list alone, then share in session. I did mine at my mom's house. My original heading: what I need to feel safe and loved. I wrote things like, "When we argue, please don't walk away mid-sentence. Tell me you need a break. Oh, I need more small affection. Hugs, a hand on my back, goodnight kisses. Can we look at our budget together once a month so I don't feel in the dark?" My mom read it and actually snorted. "This sounds like a teenager's diary," she said. "You're not asking for respect, you're begging for crumbs." She took a pen. Without asking, she crossed out whole lines and rewrote them. "You will not walk away during arguments. If you do, I will assume you don't care and act accordingly. I expect affection every day. If you can't provide that, we have a serious problem. You will stop hiding financial information from me. Full access, or this marriage is not safe for me." I stared at the page. "Mom, that's not what I meant," I said. "It's what you should mean," she answered. "You've always been too kind." Look where that got me. That last sentence hung in the air like smoke. By the 3rd month of therapy, Ethan looked exhausted. "I feel like every session is a new list of ways I'm failing," he told Dr. Lewis. "And every week her texts get more hostile. I'm trying. I really am." I frowned. "I'm just being honest about my feelings," I said. "I'm doing the homework like exactly what you told us." Dr. Lewis tilted her head. "Can I see some of the messages you're sending, Claire?" she asked gently. I hesitated, but pulled out my phone and handed it over. Her eyebrows went up as she scrolled. "This doesn't sound like how you talk in here," she said carefully. "You're much more nuanced when you speak. These messages are very absolute, lots of always and never." My face burned. I rewrite them at home," I muttered. Ethan spoke up. "With your mom," he said quietly. "You read them to her first." "You told me." Dr. Lewis looked from him to me. "Is that true?" she asked. I nodded. She paused, then said, "Claire, couples therapy doesn't work if there's a 3rd person constantly editing the script. Especially someone emotionally invested, like a parent." I felt defensive. "She's just helping me not get manipulated," I snapped. "She says you might be unconsciously taking his side." I stopped. Because saying it out loud made it sound exactly as manipulative as it actually was. Dr. Lewis didn't argue. She just said, "I would strongly recommend you keep your therapy work between the 2 of you for now. Not because your mom is evil, but because this is your marriage, not hers." I nodded, but inside, a small voice whispered, "You're betraying your mom." That night, I went to my mom's for dinner and told her what the therapist had said. She went stiff. "Of course she doesn't want me involved," Mom said. "She knows I see through the narrative. Therapists are trained to protect the man, so he keeps paying for sessions." "That's not fair," I said. Ethan wanted to come to therapy. He's trying. She leaned over the table. Sweetheart, open your eyes. He's trying to make you look unstable. First he needs therapy because you're too emotional. Then the therapist tells you to cut your own mother out? She shook her head. That's how women end up isolated with controlling men. Something in me twisted. I didn't feel controlled by Ethan, but I felt deeply controlled by her fear. Twist number 2 came a week later. I left my therapy notebook at my mom's house by accident. It had both versions of my notes in it, my original drafts and the edited ones Mom had pushed me to send. I texted her, "Hey, did I leave my journal there?" She replied, "Yes, I'll put it aside for you. Don't worry, love." The next day, I stopped by to pick it up. It was sitting on the coffee table, a pen on top of it. Something in me, that same quiet suspicion, told me to look inside before I left. On one page it said, in my handwriting, "I feel hurt when Ethan shuts down. I know he's overwhelmed, but I need him to say something, not just go silent." Underneath, written in my mom's handwriting, and then traced over to look like mine, "Ethan chooses silence to punish me. I feel emotionally abused when he shuts down instead of talking like an adult." I flipped through the notebook. There were multiple entries where my original sentences had been scratched out and replaced with harsher versions. One page, originally, "We both raise our voices sometimes. I want us to work on staying calm," was now, "Ethan yells and intimidates me. I feel unsafe." I stared at the words, "I feel unsafe." Dr. Lewis had used those exact words in our last session. If you ever feel truly unsafe, that's an entirely different situation, she said. Please tell me if that's the case. My mother was laying the groundwork, not just for me to see Ethan as an abuser, for a professional to see him that way too. I confronted her. "Did you change my notes?" I asked, holding up the notebook. She shrugged. "I just helped you say what you're really feeling." "No," I said. "You wrote things I don't feel. I do not feel unsafe with Ethan." Her eyes flashed. "You should," she snapped. "He's already trying to cut you off from your own mother. That's the first step. Then he'll control money, friends, everything. I've seen this movie." "This isn't Dad," I said quietly. Her face hardened. "Exactly," she said. "You watched me get destroyed and still trust men? I'm not going to let you repeat my mistake." And there it was, the wound behind all of it. My father had been emotionally abusive. He did isolate her. He did gaslight her. But Ethan wasn't my father, and I wasn't her. Try telling her that. Oh, twist number 3. She wasn't just editing my notes, she was recording me. A few days later, Ethan and I had a breakthrough in therapy. We actually had a good session. He apologized for walking away in fights. I apologized for bringing my mom into everything. We agreed no more sharing screenshots, no more reading messages to third parties. We left holding hands. I felt hopeful for the first time in months. On the way home, I texted my mom. "Session went well. We're trying a reset. I'm going to keep the details between me and him for a while, okay?" She didn't respond. Later that night, she called me, voice sharp. "So now I'm the bad guy?" she said without hello. "He turned you against me that quickly?" "That's not what's happening," I said. "I just need space to work on my marriage without commentary." She scoffed. Wow. I wish I'd had that luxury. I wish I'd had a mother who cared enough to warn me. We argued. We both cried. I said things I regret. After we hung up, I sat on the couch trembling. Ethan asked, "What happened?" "My mom thinks you're manipulating me," I said. "She says you're isolating me." He sighed. "I'm not asking you to cut her off. I just want some boundaries," he said. She doesn't get to dictate our marriage through you. I knew he was right, but I also knew my mom wouldn't accept that. I found out how much she wouldn't accept it 2 weeks later. I was at her house again, bringing her some groceries, trying to keep the peace. She stepped out to take a call, leaving her phone on the table, unlocked. A notification popped up from a group chat I'd never heard of. Daughters of Narcissists, B. At the top, I saw her profile picture. The last message in the chat was from her. My daughter finally told me her husband wants me out of their therapy. Just listen to how confused she is. Then several replies. He's isolating her. Classic abusive husband move. You're a great mom for not giving up. My stomach dropped. My mother had recorded our tearful phone call and sent it to a group of strangers as content. I scrolled up and saw more. Transcripts of my texts, paraphrased versions of Ethan's words, her describing him as controlling, emotionally cold, just like my ex. I saw my own sentences twisted out of context. She says she doesn't feel unsafe yet, but we all know that feeling, my mom had typed. I need to help her get out before it escalates. Before what escalates? I backed out of the chat. Numb. My life was a case study in a support group she joined to process her trauma. And she'd cast Ethan as the villain so neatly that even I was starting to accept the role she wrote for him. Twist number 4. My therapist had started keeping her own notes about my mom. I brought the notebook and screenshots to our next session. Honestly, I half expected Dr. Lewis to say I was overreacting. Instead, she looked genuinely alarmed. I showed her the edits in my therapy journal, my mom's handwriting under my words, the support group screenshots. When I finished, Dr. Lewis said, "I want you to know something, Claire. I've been keeping notes, not just about you and Ethan, but about the presence of your mother in this dynamic." My heart thudded. "What do you mean?" "From the beginning," she said. "I've noticed you refer to your mom almost as a co-therapist. My mom says this, my mom thinks that. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but what you've shown me confirms a concern I'd had." She folded her hands. "Ethan has his own flaws. He does shut down when he feels criticized. He avoids conflict. Those are real issues. But your mom is actively amplifying every problem and feeding you a story where he is your enemy and she is your savior." Ethan stared at the floor. Dr. Lewis continued, "This isn't about demonizing your mother. She's clearly acting from her own unresolved trauma. But what she's doing, rewriting your words, recording your calls, sharing them, is a form of emotional boundary violation." There it was. Someone finally naming what I'd been too loyal to admit. A boundary violation. From my own mother. After the session, Ethan and I sat in the car. Neither of us started the engine. "I love your mom in my own way," he said quietly. "I know she went through hell with your dad. But I can't keep being the villain in a story I'm not writing." I felt tears in my eyes. "I know," I whispered. "I think I've been letting her use our marriage to rewrite her past." I thought about my childhood. The nights she cried in the kitchen. The way she'd say, "If you ever see a man doing this to you, run." The promise I made to myself that I would listen to her. Somewhere along the way, "I will listen" turned into "I will obey." The hardest conversation I've ever had wasn't with Ethan. It was with my mom. I went to her apartment, sat at her table, and put my therapy notebook between us. "I know you mean well," I said. "I know you're scared for me because of what Dad did to you. But this," I pointed to the crossed out lines, the rewritten sentences, "this is not okay." She tensed. "I was protecting you," she said. "You're too naive. You think love changes men. It doesn't. You're protecting me from a husband who asked for therapy before things got bad, I said softly. Who takes responsibility in sessions? Who has never raised a hand at me? You're treating him like dad, and me like the you who never had help. She shook her head. You're blinded. That's what happens. I won't sit back while... You recorded our phone call and sent it to strangers, I interrupted. You rewrote my words to make me sound like an abuse victim. You're not just worried, Mom. You're interfering. Her eyes filled with tears. So you're choosing him? She whispered. That sentence broke me. Because in her world, there were only two options. Choose her or betray her. I tried to explain. I'm choosing me, I said. I want help, yes. But I want help that's about my reality, not your past. I'm not cutting you out of my life. But I'm putting a boundary. You don't get to edit my therapy, my messages, or my marriage anymore. She went cold. I hope you remember this moment when he breaks you, she said. And I realized there was nothing I could say that would make her see Ethan as anything but a threat to her role in my life. Right now, Ethan and I are still in therapy. We're not magically healed. We still argue. We still hit old patterns. But our therapist work is between us and Dr. Lewis. No more screenshots, no more shared notebooks, no more mama's editor. My relationship with my mother is very different. We text about recipes, work, the weather. When she tries to ask about Ethan, I say, that's between me and my husband. I love you, but I'm not discussing our marriage anymore. She hates it. Sometimes she sends passive-aggressive messages like, I'll be here to pick up the pieces when it all falls apart. And for the first time in my life, I don't respond. Because here's what I've learned. Loyalty to your parents should not require disloyalty to yourself. So if you've listened this far, I really want your honest take. If you found out your mom had been editing your therapy notes to make your husband look abusive, rewriting your text to him to sound harsher than you feel, recording your emotional phone calls and sending them to support groups as proof he's isolating you, would you keep letting her be your main advisor about your marriage? Or would you, like me, finally draw a line and accept that sometimes the person turning you against your partner is the one you were raised to trust the most?